Listen, Brad let me know some news about the Wisconsin Badgers today that was disheartening, and I'm still thinking about the conversation from about 2-3 weeks ago where Brad Nortman, Ben Bruss, and Gary Ellison, who joins us on Fridays at 4:45. Sometimes. He's on a 3-week hot streak. And y'all let me know that the Badgers were going nowhere fast, that I should absolutely get rid of any hope. And then Brad told me some news today that made me finally come to the realization that it might be over for the Badgers.
Yeah, Kyle, it doesn't bring me any pleasure whatsoever because, as I've said to KBN Nation, the Wisconsin Badgers are my number one team that I root for, the number one team that still jostles with my heart. And seeing the Badgers in the state they are in brings me nothing but sadness. And I continue that sadness today when I see a name that might not mean much to you, but it should, and I'll tell you why. Max Stienecker, okay? He was the general manager for the Wisconsin football team, right? He was with Coach Fickell in Cincinnati, and he moved with him to Wisconsin. He was the youngest general manager in college football history. He's only 25 years old, but that just goes to show how impressive he is at his job. Max Stienecker, general manager of the Wisconsin football team, has been plucked and is going to USC. In-conference, I wouldn't call it a rival, but they're an in-conference Big Ten opponent.
We can't keep nobody.
And here's the thing. You might say, okay, well, you're saying general manager. What does that even mean? Guys, in this new NIL era, general manager is second to only the head coach in importance when it comes to recruiting. Not only high school, but transfer portal, fundraising, a matter of like really being on the ground, being the eyes and ears of the program that's stirring things up behind the scenes, recruiting, funding, NIL money, portal. Basically, they are the general manager, as the name states, and the right-hand man to the head coach. USC identified that this Max Stienecker is so good, so ascending, that they got to have him over there. And what does Wisconsin do? The problem is Wisconsin cannot compete. They can't keep Max here, even though he has loyalty to Coach Fickell. Still, even with that being said, they still paid him enough to move him from Wisconsin to USC. This is going to hurt recruiting. This is going to hurt NIL. This is going to hurt transfer portal. This is going to hurt everything that is now the lifeblood of college football teams, losing your general manager, who was widely regarded as the rising star of the college football era with that. And to me, now the message is simple, because the Badgers can't muster enough NIL to pay their athletes, both to get them here and to keep them. And not only that, we lose our general manager, not enough money to keep them to the top programs like USC. So I sit back and say, okay, I've simply accepted it that the Badgers are not made to succeed in the new college football, and I have accepted it. I have accepted the Badgers are going to be mediocre. They are not built to handle this new college football world. Any advantage they had in recruiting or development is completely gone. So until things change significantly, the Badgers have no choice but to wade in the waters of mediocrity, because their financial situation, roster building, maintaining even coaches and general managers is completely harmed, and inability to compete with the top programs of college football. So, Kyle, you're a Badger fan like I am. I know you are too, Strofe. You should join me in just accepting the fact that the Badgers are just going to be average until things change.
Yeah, I just can't accept this. Like, I cannot accept the fact that we hired Luke Fickell, and we were excited, and we were hiring him to take us to the next level. We were hiring him to be able to compete in the NIL, and now what your NIL-type college football world and landscape that we have, and now what you're telling me is that next year and the years after are just a wash. Like, I shouldn't get excited. I should no longer get hyped up. I shouldn't go looking through the schedule saying, okay, if the Badgers can pull off the upset here, they can do that. Like, it is completely over?
It would be in your best interest and mine to not let our heart and our emotion be jeered with that, because it's only going to be high expectations that will be completely unmet. I just don't see what advantage the Badgers have over any standard program. They don't have a big NIL fund to be able to pay their guys in there. They can't necessarily keep guys that ascend, then can go to free agency, a.k.a. the portal, and get paid more. And you can't even maintain your coaches and your your administrative staff. That's never been more important in this world, because if there's one thing that I thought that maybe, just maybe, the Badgers would be able to maintain, it's a sense of loyalty. It's a sense of community. It's a sense of Wisconsin. We stand for something greater than what NIL is. And Max Stienecker, who I can't blame him for taking more money, has been loyal and been with Coach Fickell since the beginning. Yeah. And even then, that wasn't enough to keep him in Wisconsin. Well, he went and took a job at USC, which upends a lot of the efforts for NIL and recruiting.
Yeah, he probably saw the writing on the wall, right? What you're talking about is what everybody sees, is that it's just not going to work. It's not going to work because he hasn't been able to keep his recruits here. But then on top of that, he just hasn't been able to win football games.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest thing that Badger fans should think about is that this team regressed. We fired Paul Chryst because we saw them regressing. And now the regression has continued. He did not stop it. He's going to go into year 3, and we have zero optimism whatsoever. When he got hired to this football program, he talked about the fact that the Wisconsin Badgers had a great, a program that had a great foundation. The foundation that was built by Barry Alvarez and carried over from multiple coaches after him has completely been cracked and destroyed by Luke Fickell and his staff. There is no foundation of what this program is. The deep, rich history that Barry Alvarez built up no longer exists whatsoever. And the results that we have on the football field is a team that is not going to make a bowl game in probably back-to-back years. I don't know what we're waiting for. How much I want us to but trade for Myles Garrett is the same amount of enthusiasm I want us to just move on from Luke Fickell. It's not worth it. If we think that he can't turn this team around, then what are we waiting for?
Yeah, I mean, all the guys that were major assets for Coach Fickell, this Max Stienecker being one of them, helping him build that roster at Cincinnati and create a lot of the excitement that showed up at Wisconsin. A lot of those initial aides, they're gone now, right? They've gone in different directions. They've gone other places. So I don't know what it is that Luke Fickell is going to bring to this team that's going to change the fortunes around. But my bigger concern is, even without Coach Fickell, who are you going to bring in that's going to be able to compete in this environment? We always talk about how the Brewers are in a bad position financially to compete in Major League Baseball, right? Because there's no salary cap in Major League Baseball. So when you're the Brewers and you've got a $70 million cap and you're trying to compete against the Dodgers and the Yankees, which are $250 million, literally like 4 times yours, how can you possibly compete? The Badgers are in the same situation. They can't financially compete with Ohio State and Georgia and Bama.
Okay,
and USC,
but again,
you can't even keep players here.
See, my thing is this: if Wisconsin had the same schedule as Indiana, I don't think Wisconsin is going to the college football playoffs this year. Right? And
I agree.
And so Indiana found a way to do it and become relevant. And I think other programs are going to come and go. Minnesota was more relevant. There is no reason why the Wisconsin Badger football team should have been boat raced by that stupid Minnesota Gophers team.
Well,
there's no way it should have been boat raced by Iowa. And there's no way they should have been boat raced by Nebraska as well. That is embarrassing, especially after competing against Alabama early, but also competing against Penn State in that game and competing against Oregon throughout that entire game. There's no reason why that should happen. And that all falls on Luke Fickell. I don't know what we're waiting for. I really don't. And I'm not anti-Luke Fickell. I'm anti-losing. I'm anti-sucking. I'm anti-seeing the team that I grew up that was the most consistent team in Wisconsin, making a bowl game, I believe, 22 straight years. All of a sudden, poof, gone, and we have no future in hope in thinking that we're going to be back in a bowl game. A bowl game! That's the bare minimum.
Yeah, Kyle.
6 wins?
I'm right there with you. I mean, I'm not saying that the Badgers can't be the 6, 7, 8 win team and certainly should be able to compete with Minnesota and Iowa, Nebraska, those teams, but I'm just holding out no hope that they're going to be a 10-win plus team anytime soon. I just don't see it, and they're just simply not built to succeed in this new college football environment.
So when I type into Google, Badgers hire Luke Fickell from Cincinnati, do you know what Google suggests for me to do?
What does Google suggest?
It suggests for me to put in, do you mean Badgers fire Luke Fickell from Cincinnati?
No.
I'm dead serious.
AI taken over.
No lies. I'm not making that up. I'm not making it up. I'm like, no, I want to see what was said when he was hired. But Google is already telling us that we need to fire Luke Fickell.
Yeah, you said, ooh, Badgers hire Luke Fickell. Google says, do you mean Badgers fire Luke Fickell? I think your H needs to be an F. That is concerning. Google, I mean, that's AI. AI is smarter than all of us.
Yeah, they
That's
see
saying
it.
something.
They see it. Chris McIntosh, go ahead, Google what you need to do. Google will let you know.
Yeah,
800
the AI coders, they know.
800-990-3776. That is the Carbless talking text line where less is more. But you know what? On the other side, you know what time it is?
What's that?
It's time for Becoming Relevant with Alex Strofe. We all love that. Keep it locked. This is Kyle Brad Nortman on ESPN Wisconsin.